G'day and welcome back for more Survival Impossible. Today I'm hoping to continue some work on the curve, and there are a whole bunch of other things I want to do. But before I work on the curve, I want to show something that, well, hopefully will make me feel more reassured about the curve that I've built, such that I can continue building it as I was. I have been kindly supplied with a blueprint of a gigantic circle. A circle that has the same radius as my curve. So what I need to do is build a projector, large grid projector, onto the train so that I can project that onto the rail and we can see whether my curve is going to end up where I want it to. And I'm desperately hoping it does. My idea is to build a temporary projector onto the back of this train because this spot here seems like a pretty good spot to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small rotor on the back here, one of the 3x3 ones, because I find it's easier to get the large rotor part to sit on top of them, and then stick a large rotor head on top of that. The reason I've gone with a rotor rather than a connector is that a rotor has the advantage of being smaller. It's that simple. Because if I go with large grid, I need a large grid connector, and that's a full large grid block, whereas this is just this. And then I can stick a projector on top of that. In fact, I could leave this on the train long term. This doesn't need to get removed. Technically. This can stay here. Because this will then allow me to see my curves wherever I want them. And get an idea of where I need to stop the curve and that sort of stuff. Which could be really, really handy. Alrighty. Let's drop that displacement as much as I can. Then we load up this blueprint here, which you all sent me. Thank you very much. And I now have a gigantic circle. Now hopefully in the correct orientation, and yeah, it looks pretty good. So with that on there, all I need to do is basically drive this out to the curve. And we can see where my curve will approximately end up. It's really quite handy. You can see the size of this curve. It is big. I could probably go into the projector and try and adjust this down so it sits at rail height, just to make it a bit easier to see what's going on. And horizontal offset needs to go 1, I think. No, it didn't. So if the projector's right at the start of the curve, this will show me pretty much exactly where I'm going to end up. And this is a very, very nice tool. I am very much appreciative of this because this is the sort of visualization that works for me. A few people tried to suggest other ways you can do it mathematically and figure things out and create GPS points, and that all, to me, felt like more work than just doing the thing and fixing it if it was slightly wrong. Now you can see if I line up about right, it's pretty close to my curve when it's lined up at the start there. So if I leave the train parked here, I can get in the bed bug and fly out to see where this is hooked up to. Where this is aligned to. And hopefully we'll see that things are looking pretty good to me. Oh yeah. So I reckon somewhere around here or so, we should be able to then go and turn the other way, like from about here. That's going to give us a pretty clean curve, I think, into the valley. If not from here, we possibly need a straight section before we do the second curve back to our right. And I should be able to use this same blueprint, just flip it over for my right-hand turns. So this is going to be very, very handy for predicting where I need to make my curves. This is very nice. And quite convenient that the train had a nice spot to put the projector on. I will need to make sure this projection is not on at all times, because having this many blocks projected is not nice for the game. It doesn't like it. Even fairly simple blocks like this. So if you do something similar, can recommend turning the projector off when not required. So with that checked, we've now... Oh, before I get out of here, let's get a quick one thing. Want a shoot once. There we go. Now we've added a shoot once to command to this. That means I will hopefully not shoot through things. I will probably forget to use it, and I'll probably still use the regular shoot a bit, but, you know, it's fine. Let's get projector. Put that on the second hotbar. So we will have toggle block on off, and then I'm hoping I can do increase roll, decrease roll maybe? Let's see, is that the right control? Yeah. So I can flip it from here. Right, left, right, left. Perfect. Yeah. And then when I get back to the train station, what I want to do with this is I want to add an event controller, because this was another cool idea that was suggested. An event controller that detects when the welders are out of steel plate. Because when they're out of steel plate, I want them to automatically swing up. When they're full, I do not want them to swing down, but when they're out of plate, I want them to swing up. That's going to be a really nice indicator for me to know that they're out of plate. Something else rail related, which I might be able to do from here. Let's see. One of the things that happens in Space Engineers when you have two large static grids near each other, and as close as these two are, it is possible, when you remove the thing that's keeping them apart, for them to snap together. That may happen with this straight section, that may happen even with my curves. To prevent that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a control panel in the gaps. So one right there, because that means these can no longer merge when I separate them and remove the connecting grids, which I will eventually do, but it's not for a long while. And so it's something I'm going to have to remember to do on as many of the gaps as possible, in the hope that it prevents that merging. Because I'm not really in a position to test the merging, and putting a little thing in there like you can see now, which is really quite subtle, it will try and occupy the same space as the next section of rail, which means those two grids cannot merge. Same reason why you can't merge two grids that have a hinge on them or a rotor, because the rotor part and the rotor will try and occupy the same cube space, and so Space Engineers says no. We cannot have compound blocks. And that little control panel will do the same thing. And the reason to use the control panel, it's small. All right, lock down. Are we loaded up with steel plate? Need some sort of indicator for that too. No, we are not loaded up with steel plate. So for this event controller that's going to pick up the cargo containers, equal to or less than, 0. And the ones we want are train, construction train, welder, cargo. Those with an AND gate. So hopefully it means that all of those need to meet that state, and then it will trigger. And set actions will be welder arm hinges. Tick. Oh, I need to set velocity on these. And I don't know if that's all the same on them. 5 and 5. Okay, cool. It is. Welder arm hinges. Set velocity. 5. Cool. So we have a little thing that should, in theory, make the arms go up when I run out of steel plate, which is nice. All right, we're getting places. We're doing things. I've got to wait for steel plate to be manufactured right now, so I need to kind of distract myself with some other tasks while I wait for that to happen. I'm going to weld up this rotor part, since I'm going to be leaving that projector there, now that I've decided it's permanent. With how slow the steel plate is to manufacture, I might actually try and take a look at my production facility and see if there's a way that I can add another assembler down there. That's not a place I have looked at any time recently. Okay, so in here I have my assembler there. Oh, I don't need another assembler. I need speed modules. This thing's got all power efficiencies on it. Wow, no wonder it's taking forever. Okay, that saves a lot of pain. All right, let's fix that.
Full.
I'm switching you over to speed modules. Let's get some production. Also, why am I carrying around hydrogen bottles? I really need to go drop those in the shuttle. There we go. Tripled the production rate. Yay! That should... that should help out quite a bit. Yeah, that should help out quite a bit. Do I want to do the other ones? Probably should. Let's just check the batteries on the base. Make sure I'm not doing this at some disastrous time. Stored power. Ooh. Oh, okay. Interesting. There is slightly more input than output, but the batteries on the base are not charged. Interesting. Very interesting. I also don't seem to have that many base batteries at all. Kind of wish they had the large grid battery symbol so that we could tell which one was which. But, no. I could name them, I suppose. Okay, so we have 25 base batteries. With a total power input of 3.24 megawatts. Total output of 2.86. So they are charging. They've got 30 megawatt hours of storage. So that's fine. Let's speed this up. Let's get this full speed moduled. Part of me that was tempted to replace it with an industrial assembler. But the design in here, it's been in here for so long, I kind of just wanted to leave it as it is. There we go. Now, 30 megawatt hours. That's going to take a long time for me to chew through, even if I do chew through it. So I'm not too stressed about the assembler suddenly running me out of power and me needing to move on to a power production side of things. Particularly when anytime I go up to like the launch head base and go and explore or do things like that, there will be times where the assembler will sit idle. So even though the assembler chews through what? 4.2 megawatts, it's still going to be fine. Like that's still what? Even if it chews through the 30, that's 8 and a bit hours of power I've got. It'll be okay. Well, that was an easier fix than I was expecting, but there probably is room in here for another assembler if this ends up not being fast enough. But I think one full speed module assembler is usually enough to keep up with the pace at which I build stuff. But I'm reasonably confident I could rearrange things in here to fit more in if I wanted to. Cool. Nice. Easy fix. Next thing. It's so nice to have the rail at a position where I can do more with it. I can keep expanding it and I can work on it from time to time and gradually get my way built to the other station, because I'd really like to work on that hydrogen station, and given what we saw with my power situation, I would ideally like to get the hydrogen run in rather than adding more power production to my base. Because obviously it's very easy just to spam out some more wind turbines. Even at the ridiculously low production I get here on Omicron, it's still very doable. But it's just not, well, it doesn't feel that interesting a way to get power. Burning the hydrogen that I get from the ice at the other base, on the other hand, because that means I've got to have that whole logistics set up with the train or, you know, whatever else to get me there and back, like to get the fuel there and back. That feels more fun. And that's why I'm doing it, because it feels fun. Which also brings to mind something that I get asked a lot in the comments, which is, why don't I build a cargo drone to refill the train as I'm driving it along? So the drone goes back and forth to the station, to the base here, picks up some steel plate, brings it to the train, docks, offloads, goes back and forth. While the drone itself, it would possibly be kind of cool to watch it do its thing so that the construction train can do it. By the time I reach the other end, and I'm, say, a kilometer from the other base, and the drone is still coming to me and dropping off steel plate, it kind of brings me to the question of, why did I build the rail at all? The drone kind of highlights that I did this whole thing just because I wanted to do this thing a little too much for me, a little more than I want to. So that's why I'm not doing that. I don't want it to highlight quite that much that the train is a 100% rule of cool build, in that I think it's cool, so therefore I'm going to build it. Now, looking at this building, it is now very painful to navigate with this vehicle in here, I kind of want to do some changes around here. The simplest thing to do would be to just replace these 2x1x1 base blocks with the slab blocks, and then I'll be able to walk around the truck. So that might be what I do. The alternative thing would be to widen the building by a whole block, making it bigger, making it easier for me to get in here. And that also wouldn't be terribly difficult, at least at the front section, if I just bring these blocks out. I have to rebuild all the stairs and stuff. So I think I might just do the slab bit and see if that's enough to make up, to make it easy enough to navigate around here at least. It is really painful. And standing in front of this truck reminds me, I forgot to actually mention that I'd picked a name for it. I actually do have a name in mind for this truck. And it was because of the U-Haul thing that made me think of Futurama, and that made me think of the U-Yank, which is the name that they gave to their U-Haul knockoff. Which is a much more awkward name to say, so I'm not sure how I feel about it. It certainly doesn't look as nice with this, without the slope, but it is nice to be able to walk around the truck. Ooh, that's another small advantage of doing things this way. I can now get access to this cargo container without having to go inside. Or into the airlock bit. Could look nicer if I change that container up though. Do I put the nice side of the terminal in the airlock area? Yeah, I think so too. I was about to say, in the airlock area out here, I think out here looks fine like that. Especially with the Passage 3 frame around it. And that looks pretty tidy. Yeah. Just replace these two, and then I should be able to walk around the truck. It's also probably worth noting that I don't need to worry so much about airtightness of this section anymore, because I'm probably not going to actually make this bit airtight. Like, I'm not going to shut down this building. The reason it was made airtight was because I used to grind down by hand, so I'd be standing in there for a prolonged period of time, so it was nice to have it airtight. But now that it's all done with vehicle controls, it's not really necessary. While I'm in here, I am going to update and improve this connection system because it's pretty bad. It should be done so much better. I've used these 3 pieces to keep that connector in so that I don't have to do any reworking of any controls inside, and then we should be able to put a little small inset connector in here, like so. Then all I need is a small connector facing up from the ground, and I should be able to lock down without any troubles. So the reason I wanted to work on this now and fixing it was that I really didn't like the look of that in the roof. And the awkwardness of the connector. From how slick this one was to how naff that one was a real disappointment with how clean this design is from other perspectives. The ODP2 truck, which you guys gave me so many different names for, I really wanted to make clean. One of the reasons I really liked the suggestion that I was given to do this as my docking connector is that I have a separate docking connector here. So we've got the connector for locking onto the drop pods, and we've got a connector for docking to the base. This means I can have an event controller set up for docking, which does all the things. So all I have to do is dock. I don't have to set recharge on my batteries. I don't have to do all of those things like turn off my antenna and all those other power using things like gyros that don't need to be on when I'm on the base. I can turn off my lights. All of those things can be done. What I'd like to figure out is whether there's going to be a clean way for me to adjust the maximum extension of this piston when I dock, when I go to under. It's not really a nice when I dock and undock, is there? I'm going to have to manually adjust the extension each time. Nope, don't like that. All right, we're having a piston that is going to push up from the floor. Because I was just thinking, if I could get this to go down the remaining... Oh, it's only a 1 block anyway, so it probably wouldn't quite get within lock range. But if it could have gone down to floor height, I could have just had a connector in the floor, and all the control was done with that piston. But I don't think that's going to play very nicely. So what I'm going to do instead is, I think that whole thing moves. So I need to make another conversion to small grid in here. Let's see where it needs to be first. Oh, hang on. Just thought. I would prefer if I was slightly offset from center, but slightly away from my door rather than driving towards my door. So I might actually, the bit that I've ground out of the floor might be a bit that I fill in. If I could park, say, back here, that might be better. Let's see where that puts me. So that puts the connector. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, I can make this work. Can I get in and out? Yes, excellent. Oh, hello. Were those always meant to be dummies? Oh yeah, those are all dummies. That's fine. Oh, that's not where I want to be at all. So what I want to do is make sure that wherever I'm parking in here allows this to still exist, because this is a relic of a bygone era, and I really like it. The mechanism I built for this was built at a time where collisions were a lot more tricky to work with, and I was really proud of myself for making something that looked as tidy as it does and still worked. So I don't want to get rid of it, but what I do want to do is have something that aligns on that side, and I can park all the way back here because that gives me plenty of room to get to the door. I can get around the truck still. It all still is fine. And it actually, I think, feels like a better parking spot parking back there rather than right at the door and blocking my own access to things. I'm hoping I don't have to drop the hinge down another block. Should be able to get away with this. Hinge there. Hinge lock on. Set my limits to 0. Before I add the medium head. Oh, I can actually add a small head. Maybe? Does that align properly? Or does that misalign the blocks? Because I want the blocks to align properly to the current floor, so I can just make floor out of small blocks. I think that perfectly aligns. Yeah. So I can fill in the floor like this with that one. That's all going to be fine. Then what I need to do is just bring this across and bring a piston down directly underneath that connector. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to build exactly around it, so literally just the connector comes out on the piston. I'm wondering if it'll work. By some miracle, I have actually remembered that square pistons exist, and I'm going to use one. Oh no, why? Ugh. I did not look at what I was grinding then. I just ground, thinking, oh yeah, I'm definitely looking at the right thing. No need to look at the tooltip on the right that tells me I'm looking at the wrong thing. And have to rebuild all of this. Okay, remember to use a square piston, because style. And I always forget that they exist. And I get reminded so frequently just after I've done everything. And when it comes to subgrids replacing the parts that you've done wrong, oh, it's not fun. Yeah, I want to see if I can get away with using an inset connector here, because I think it'll look tidier in the floor if I can. If I can't, that's okay, but I want to see if I can. So we go with an inset connector on there. And then I need to see what pieces I can put around this that hopefully will allow it to slide up and down properly. And I'm thinking there's a decent chance that if I use these around it, I should be able to do this. Maybe. We will see if it'll pass through this gap. I think it'll look pretty tidy if it can. Oh yeah. That's what I like to see. Okay, so maximum extension should be probably just 1.5. Yep. And minimum extension should be so that this sits perfectly flush with the floor. No, that's a tiny bit proud, I think, but it's hard to tell until I've welded up blocks around it. So we want to go maybe minimum distance of 0.45? No, that's too little. Okay. 0.48. 0.47. Ah, perfection. Yeah. And because this is nice and small, I can probably actually use genuine hazard around this one. Make sure it's the same orange as the other bits. I may regret doing this, because this may actually stop the piston from working. Because I'm now putting down something else for it to collide with. And now the piston probably wants to be more extended, because I didn't think that through. Also, don't know if that looks better or worse. I think it looks worse. Now all I gotta do is fill in the floor, and then change up the behavior of my action relay. So the action relay will, instead of controlling the bit in the roof, it'll set this piston to extend or retract. And I have a far, far cleaner connector for my truck. Not sure how I feel about the hazard paint on the floor right now. I do want to have some hazard plating around the connector. Just not sure that was how I wanted to do it. I feel like I might want to use actual hazard, but instead of putting it immediately next to the connector, spacing it out a bit further beyond it might be nicer. So I don't get the block edge all along here. I need to change the block that I'm using. Same along here. So I either just do the hazards either side of it, or if I want to fill it in and see, I could make it like this. Yeah, I think that's okay. It is a lot of the old hazard and the new hazard and the mixing of the two and blah blah blah, but I could also go and replace this one, but I kind of liked that it's kept exactly as it was way back when, since way back when. Okay, then we're removing this. And I will also remove this. Yeah. Goodbye. Now I just need to make sure I grind down the correct bits, or since this is light enough, I'll just drag it down here to the grinder. Okay, that works better. Oh, I missed an opportunity. I'm gonna get rid of this passage 3 frame. Didn't realize what I'd done when I opened up this little space here. I can now put a button in to control the grinders, even while... Yes, perfect. And while out of the truck. It's not as pretty, but man, is it nice having that button. There's so much practical benefit to that. Now I've got myself curious about something else that I just realized might be possible. If I use a lab door here, does this get airtight? It does. Excellent. That means goodbye, offset door. Yes. I have a plan here. What was my plan? I had a plan. It's now evaporated from my brain. So what I was thinking this might allow me to do by getting rid of that bit was put that there. So that keeps those bits separated. Then I can put the button, where it is, then I can put the button in front of the door here. Although that's not going to play particularly nicely with the orientation of the door, so I'm probably going to have to flip the door around. Does that make it difficult to walk out the door? It's not ideal, but it works. Okay. And then I can put my little passageway bit back in here, which I think looks tidy underneath the vent. And now that I've done that, I'm sure there will be people commenting, why didn't you just do it this way? At which point next week you'll see me fix it. But I think this kind of works for now. Yeah, okay. That I'm happy with for the moment. I was trying to decide whether I want the tinting going this way. And I felt like the tinting from this way made more sense. But then I'm not going to see it from this side very often, so maybe I should put the tinting that way. I don't know. It'll be fine. That door barely gets used. And then we do connect. Comes out of the floor. That probably needs to be faster. Okay, we should be good. And yeah, lights off, antenna off, all the things are off. And we're docked. Man, that is so much better. That is a much... that's a nice improvement. I'm happy. This space is a bit awkward, but I'm still happy. Still happy that that is much better. So there's another little project that I'm going to put a bit of thought into before I immediately start it, but I kind of need to have a look at the aerodrome to figure out whether it might be possible. What I'm thinking about is adding some more of these Quonset hut hangar things and using them to store some of the little relics that are around the place. So things like the Remora, which is now a relic, and the Remora's booster sections, that sort of stuff. Have somewhere to put them that they're out of the way, but they also could look like they're almost in a workshop. It'll also mean that perhaps I'll have something a bit more purpose-built for the pufferfish here. Although maybe the pufferfish should have a shuttle location up at the main base rather than down here. But I just wanted to see whether there's enough flat ground around here, and I think there kind of is for me to put at least another one this way. I'll have to readapt the way that these conveyor lines are done. Like, I'll have to get rid of these two sections and put the huts in there. But I think that's flat enough. Particularly if I were to curve them away so that they can kind of keep going this way, and maybe I can put down 3 or more of them. And then that'll kind of start spreading this area out down here and give me more places to put stuff. Alternatively, I could try going this way, but my worry about that is that I'll end up with a hut that's half in the snow and half out. And that's not really what I want. The locations that I picked for these two are very flat or just slight depressions, so you can walk straight in and out with ease. You don't need to put too many ramps in for the hut to make sense. Like, there's no giant drop off the back or the front. But I thought that might be a nice way for me to put stuff into storage, but not make a full-on museum. But have them in, like, workshops where they could theoretically be being worked on, but in reality are just kind of there to look interesting. So the alternative I thought about was maybe going down this way. What? Oh! I think we found the canary that exploded. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. This is the recent one, because there's ammo on the ground that somehow has not been deleted. Okay. That could have gone a lot worse. That wasn't far from the panini. Also just noticed something dangling off the panini that might be able to be fixed now. I've got small antennas. I don't need the little hinge mounted one anymore. Oh, oh, oh. About to go running down there before I've got any oxygen. Which would be bad. I'm also here by the shuttle, so I should drop off my oxygen bottles. I mean, not oxygen, hydrogen. I was hesitant to put the huts over this side because if I put them over this side, I do have to chop some trees down. And I have always avoided chopping trees down in this save wherever I can. Oh, the batteries are still intact. This thing would technically be repairable. Oh man. Well, finding all of the things. So I think the best plan is more huts, probably going out this way. So we can put maybe 2, maybe 3. And then I could put another one on the opposite side and have like a central pathway. And then the conveyor line should still be able to be set up similarly to connect them up. And I'll have this kind of path that curves around with all the Quonset huts. And I can just keep using them to store various projects that are either retired or relics of an era where they're no longer required. But I feel attached to them, so I don't want to get rid of them. And I've now probably distracted myself for long enough that a whole bunch of steel plate have been made. And I can go out there and place down some more rail before it gets too dark. Although I feel like I have missed much of the day. I need a lift. I'm tired of these stairs. I really need a lift. Oh, we're full. Let's unlock. Now, something a few people were concerned about was the state of the batteries on this train. And I don't think we need to worry. They are all fully charged up. And it has so much power on board. I don't really need to have any recharging capabilities on it as yet, but as a few people have brought up, and I think quite reasonably so, oh nuts, I left without water. Once I get further away from the main base, I probably will need another cargo train, like a cargo carriage on this, for hauling even more steel plate so that I can do larger segments at a time and have to make fewer trips. On that, on its basically flat bed, I could just cover it in solar panels. So at least I do have some little bit of power coming in all the time, which is probably a smart thing to do. Oof. Glad I have the wheels for shock absorbers back there. She is heavy with the steel plate. Something I've been trying to figure out and I still haven't got an answer for. So I want to put it out there to see if any of you guys have any ideas. But I would like to automate this train. And oh, that's not good. Thanks, space engineers. Great. Autosave was a few minutes ago. Great. I feel like space engineers heard me say I wanted to build a lift so that I could get up the top so I didn't have to take the stairs. So it's forced me to take the stairs again. Off we go again. Again. Oh, it'll look pretty cool looking down there and seeing a bigger aerodrome with more hangars at it. That'll actually look pretty nice. I didn't think about that aspect of building the train further out from the aerodrome, that not only does it make the aerodrome itself look better, it gives the view from the train of the aerodrome a bit more interest. Oh wait, that event controller, the one that's set up to lift the arms when I run out of cargo, it also needs to turn off the welders. Otherwise I'll never turn them off and I'll probably cook myself by accident at some point. Hope that was just some scrap from me having shot something before, but something just fell to the ground, which is very worrying. Very, very worrying. Alright, you should be... have I got anything in the cockpit? No. Let's grab some steel plate. Let's go do some building. Oh, actually I've done this wrong. I did not get in the cockpit in a safe place. Okay, this is the way I should be getting in and out. Probably should also have turned off dampeners while I was parked there, as I might have cooked through the floor. Luckily I didn't. Oopsie. Alright, let's try my shoot once command. There we go. So, one of the things I'm going to be dealing with as we get further along the train line is a lot of roll. It's going to be quite a bit of a problem in various parts of the track. Oh, in fact, probably in the whole track. And one of the things that I would have loved to do, but I just don't think is feasible in this particular setting, is put a little bit of roll into the track so that you had basically a bit of camber as you go through each curve. So you're kind of leaning into the curve. That should, in theory, make it safer to go around the curve at a higher speed. But in practice, what it might end up doing is creating a situation where the curve starts pointing toward the ground, at least at extreme cambers. At a slight camber, it shouldn't really be a problem, but maybe it'll start lifting the track up, and adding my own roll into this feels like it's going to make my life so much harder than the small benefit it would give, that I'm probably going to be mostly working at cancelling the roll that exists rather than adding more roll. We'll probably find that the episodes where I'm working on the track and trying to get decent segments of it done might end up being a bit shorter overall than the than other ones where I've got a bit more going on. But I think for the joy that it'll bring when it's done, this track is totally worth it. It's just a bit of an upfront investment for something that's going to be very cool to ride whenever I need to. And building at the ice base, there's a lot of building to do there. So I'm going to be traveling back and forth from there a bit, I hope. Plus, oh, that's something I need to start putting some thought into. My new drone design for clearing out the enemies that are along this route, now that I've started properly building towards my goal. This is not very good weather for planning out a railway track. Although it is kind of a cool demonstration of the lights that run along my conveyor line back at base. Sadly, the railway line really can't have lights all the way along it. As much as it could look interesting to have that many lights, the game does not enjoy it. Have mucked around with that many lights before, and it is, and relatively recently. It's not good. All right, shared inertia tensors back on all of those. So I think I can put down a few more sections, and I reckon that's going to be probably time for another pillar. Maybe when this storm ends, I'll put down another pillar, and hopefully that'll be approximately where I want to then go into another straight section before I start my right-hand turn to get back into the valley. But I really can't assess that right now for, I believe, fairly obvious reasons. Think maybe another, yeah, not too many more segments. I probably want to go back a couple to build the pillars. Actually, if I go straight there, is that going to sit? I reckon that's going to sit really nicely. I reckon we'll go straight back onto a straight section, which means I can build from back on the train. Oh, that just made me realize it might be nice alongside the big curve projector on the train to have a big straight section projector on the train. Make a similarly designed red-yellow thing and have a projection that shoots straight out ahead so I can see where a perfectly straight line ends up going, so that I can be sure that I'm going to clear the ground by as much as I hope to, or that I'm not going to intersect with things, or where I'm going to intersect with various bits of terrain. That's another thing to do. Yeah, I will have to make sure I make one of those for next time, so that I've got a nice planner for both curves and straight sections. There are a couple of things with real-world train lines that sort of didn't make sense when I thought about them a bit more. One of the suggestions, which I really like in concept, but I wasn't sure how to execute here, was the idea of easing into a curve and easing out of a curve. So that's where instead of having the curve go straight to a 2-degree change per bit, I'd either make those segments longer, so I'd hit a 2 degree less frequently as I get into the curve, or have it so that it goes 1 degree or half a degree, then 1 degree, then that sort of thing. The thing is, that's when we view the curve as a whole, but the curves here are really multiple smaller curves, because each little hinge is a curve, and then it's a straight, and then it's a curve, and then it's a straight, and then it's a curve. So it doesn't really add anything apart from complexity and me figuring out where the curve's going to end up. So I've decided not to go with that plan, just to make it easier for me to figure out where my curves are going to go. Because if I have a fixed curve that I always use, then I can always use that projector to figure out where I'm going to end up. Something I wanted to quickly mention at some point today was my apologies for not really replying to as many comments last time as I would normally. Part of that was due to getting rather sick in the past week, and that's also why we missed a week for those of you who were watching these as they come out. I'm back to good now, so hopefully it'll be a while before I have another one of those, but with a toddler at home, who knows how long it'll be till he brings the next horrible daycare disease back to me. Alright, let's check this again. I think we should be good now. Let's line up. Now, where's my power? 22 minutes, cool. Oh yeah, that looks good. That's spot on. Excellent. Very happy. Oh man, look at that sweeping curve! I love seeing curves in block building games. They just make me happy. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this down to the ground then. But I need to find that one that doesn't have shared inertia tensors on it so I can stiffen this whole thing up. Otherwise there's going to be some tension on this when I lock it and make it a static grid. Track is a long way in the air here. Oh! I completely forgot how I was doing this last time. I forgot I was radioing into the base to control the hinges. I've been using build vision. and jumping out of my cockpit a lot. Probably don't need to do that so much. Now we should be able to snap this to the ground. Make this static, and then I get to build some quick sections. Because these bits are slow. Oh no. Did I even bring the parts to build more? I didn't, did I? Ah, poop. Okay. I need to change up what is held on the train so that I hold the parts to make control panels. Because I need a control panel to convert that to static grid. So I'm going to make a quick flight home, grab the parts, come back to the train. And back I go. This would have been potentially an opportunity to drive the train back and forth, but it's very heavily laden with steel plate. So I figured it would be better just to fly back and forth. And this is why I don't want to build the drone to resupply the thing. Because I'll just want to use the drone all the time to do quick things, and I'll never use the train. Has got me wondering whether I will, in fact, make every single grid on here static, or whether I'll leave some of the rail segments as connected via the hinges as they are, and try and just build pillars where they make sense. Guess we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out performance-wise. If it's the handling fine when it's got just a few static grids, I might well leave it with just a few. But if it seems like it's causing major problems, then obviously I'll lose the lot of it because it's not worth it. I do like the shoot once. It's tidy. Cool, so that's static now, which means I'm building on a static grid as I extend this straight section and build it a bit longer. And if I build from the train, I can also see where the projector is going to line up and hopefully pick where the turn has to start to turn back the other way to get down into the valley properly. Now, obviously, I'm only working in 2 dimensions here, and we are going to hit the curvature of the planet soon as an issue, if we haven't already. But I will deal with that hopefully during the straighter parts, where I don't have another obvious turn that I need to make for some reason or another. This is a pretty picturesque view. Gas giant in the background. Welding train doing its thing. Following along the train line towards a doom drop that's at the end. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure why the welding effect has stayed on the welder. That's kind of fun. Let's just check. Do I still have any steel plate back there? Nope. I do not. That worked. 1.1 Ks down there, there is an enemy? That's probably from the bits that became the panini, I imagine. Now, to make it easier for me placing out blocks, I'm going to do this while the train is empty. That's the reason why I welded up that section. Because it's a lot safer when the train is light for me to be building, because I'm building near the edge of the end of the track, than it is for me to be building while the train is full. Okay, so what I need to do now is go and turn on the projector. We need to flip it. And you can see now my curve is going to turn right, and I definitely don't need to start turning for a while yet. I've probably got a few hundred meters to go before that curve needs to start to go down into the valley. And what I'd like to do is just make the curve to go back into the valley, and then once we're in the valley, start adjusting my roll so that I've got no roll. And once I fix the roll of the rail, then I'm going to pitch down so that I can start following the curvature of the planet to get to the next destination. I feel like the valley's got enough wiggle room left and right for me to aim roughly down the center and go pretty well straight. But we'll see what it looks like when I get around the corner. But yeah, still got ages to go, which is good. Yep, we're ready for the turn. I think at least we're gonna have to do maybe a more gradual turn here. Maybe I won't go for the full tight, but I also think I'm gonna need to do some pitch change because I feel like I'm sloping backwards. As you can see, the train is rolling backwards, so I am definitely going uphill now. So maybe what I'll do first, before I get to starting the corner, because I do still have a bit of space, is I will begin with the slope downward, which is going to be Something I haven't actually figured out yet, because of course I haven't. Of course I didn't work that part out straight away. Oh, actually sloping downwards is easy. Sloping upwards is the tricky part. Sloping downwards is easy because I just put a hinge as I've been doing them, except this time the hinge is oriented so that I can tilt downward. Can I park this thing? I'm not sure I can. There is enough of a slope here that it's just rolling. Okay. The fact that my train is rolling down this as a hill is not good. I turn... Oh, it's come to a halt here. Let's say though, if I turned that off, can I then turn the parking brake on? I can. I think what I need to do is add a little set of stairs or a ramp or something. Whew. I hate getting out of that thing when I've had to move it up to here. But add a little set of stairs so that instead of having to move this down into the low bit so I can jump up on it, I can just walk up onto the top and get in the cockpit in the correct position. For doing everything. So what I need to do is figure out how much roll there is in this track, but also how much tilt. So what I can do is this. How many degrees am I going to need to pitch down in order to smooth this out? Oops. So what I thought I'd do is place two like that. Then we're going to place a rotor this way. And then on that rotor, I'm going to place a weight. And this weight should pull that rotor around until it's at the what is 0 for here. Now I think the slope is going to be fairly mild, but we'll see. If I hop out now, should be able to see that this is at 358.7 degrees. So it's really less than 2 degrees off. But there is a slope, and it's approximately 1.3 degrees. So what I should be able to do is something like, let's do like a half a degree pitch change per. And I do want the pitch change ones to be quite small because the bigger the degree change, the bigger the gap. So that'll be doing this, where I then put a hinge in like so. The lower limit into minus 0.5. Then we should just be able to place full blocks on either piece. Like that. And then that's going to give me a very, very, very small tilt. It could probably be a full degree looking at it because it is incredibly subtle. Yeah, -1. Yeah, that looks fine. It's very small. So that's our 2 degrees. Now I need to check if there's any roll. So to check for roll, I'm going to do the same sort of thing where I build sacrificial rotor and I'm going to dangle some track from it. And I'm going to do this probably every couple of kilometers. I'm hoping I won't need to do it any more often than that, but I guess maybe it should be every major curve in the track. I do this to check whether I've introduced any roll into the track that I didn't intend. As you can see, there's a half a degree roll. Don't really know which way that is. I think the reality is there's not it's a negative half degree roll, maybe? I won't worry too much about the roll just yet. I'll worry about that once we get into the valley. There we go. Clean that up, and I'll clean this bit up. Oh, got it. Skeet shooting. Okay, cool. We have done our first pitch change on the track, and I'm set up and I've tested for roll for the first time. And we're more than 2 kilometers of track laid, but not welded. How far have I gotten with the welding? I'll have to check as I go back. And also, I'm interested to see whether I've got already enough material to do another trip out. So that'd be nice if I do. Let's go back home and find out. We need to turn off the handbrake, turn on wheel control script. Oh yeah! Now this is feeling like there's some distance covered with it. It's always a little bit terrifying starting the curve. Okay, so we are at 1 kilometer completed in terms of welded rail. Obviously, there are the supports and other bits of stuff that need to be added over time. But in terms of welded rail, we're 1 kilometer in, and in terms of placed rail, we're more than 2 kilometers, which is pretty sweet. And I am increasingly agreeing with people that I need to, sooner rather than later, work on a cargo car for this. So that I can hold a lot more steel plate than just the 20,000. Although, I am going to run out of iron soon, so, you know. I will probably not need to worry about that immediately, just soon. Because I've got to get the iron down here before I worry about having the stuff on the train, because if I don't have enough for even fill the train, there's not much point to worrying about it. Alrighty, off we go. We got another load. It had all been fully done in the time I was gone, which isn't surprising. I was gone a fair while. But I'm going to get this lot welded down, and that's going to put me in a pretty good position, I think, for next week heading back up to the launch air base, setting things up with the new drop pods, and hopefully coming down with a whole lot more iron and some gold. So I'm looking forward to drilling out, like, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to try and adjust the drill position and all that sort of stuff. Start building the new hydrogen tanks, all of the various bits and pieces that it needs. Because there are a bunch of bits and pieces that it actually needs so that it can be my staging post for further exploration, because I'm running out of iron on that asteroid. Which means I need a new asteroid to send iron to so that I can lob it down here to the planet. So there's all that and plenty more to come. And I will see you then.